First at 4, AT&T, we've got a problem. That was a common refrain for phone customers across the country today. Now, we just received an update from the company. You will hear it next. And let's check in with Kim.
Well, it's turned out to be a fairly decent day, although the clouds are still here and colder weather is returning for tomorrow and Saturday. We'll talk about it coming up.
Oh, look at that. Do you see it coming out?
And just like that, maple sap. In fact, we'll tell you what the weather is doing to our maple syrup season.
Local 4 News starts now with a breaking news alert.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Drew. First at 4, that breaking news comes in the trial of James Crumbley. Now, he's the father of the Oxford High School shooter. Defense attorneys were trying to get Crumbley's trial moved out of Oakland County after his wife was recently convicted on 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. They argued he could not get a fair trial. In the past hour, court records show that motion has been denied. Crumbley was just in court yesterday fighting over some of the witnesses that will be called during this trial. Right now, the big news is the trial will not be moved. Crumbley's trial set for March 5th. Now, our other top story. Many Americans have been having all kinds of phone trouble today thanks to that outage at AT&T. But just in the last 25 minutes, the company finally had some good news to report. Let's bring in Kimberly Gill with the latest. Kim.
Hi, Karen. Good afternoon. Just a little while ago, as you said, AT&T announced they have successfully restored service to every one of their customers impacted by today's outage. The company went on to apologize and said they're actively taking steps to make sure and nothing like this ever happens again. But that doesn't change the fact that many Americans woke up to problems using their cell phones. We saw everything from minor nuances to more serious concerns like not being able to call 911. We still don't know an official number of how many people were affected, but outages were reported nationwide. On the site Down Detector, the problems seem to peak at just above 74,000 users. That was around 10 this morning, but that only counts people reporting issues to that site, so it's probably not a true barometer of the problem. Many people were frustrated today, as you can imagine.
I think the biggest issue is that I have no sense of direction on my own, so not being able to utilize my GPS has probably been like the hardest thing.
It's a little scary, especially, being out on the streets if I had to call for an emergency and somebody needed help. And I never got a notice, obviously, because my phone doesn't work.
Right. So you may have heard other companies such as Verizon and T-Mobile were also having trouble. Those companies say they were unaffected by this, but customers were probably struggling to reach people who use AT&T. The biggest question, guys, of all, I think, is why did this happen? We don't have any answers yet, but the FCC confirms it is investigating the outage. We'll have more on Local 4 News at 5. Karen, back to you.
All right, thank you, Kim. Live look right now at Metro Airport on this Thursday afternoon. Pretty quiet winter day, unseasonably warm, though. Let's head on over to Kim Adams for that first forecast. Gray but warm, Kim.
That's right. We've got a lot of clouds out there. There was a break or two of the sun here and there. You might have been lucky enough to see it. Temps are well above average. We should be around 37, 38 degrees, and we're at 52 at Metro, mid-50s downtown, 52 in Mount Clemens and Pontiac, and also over to Howell. But it's a little colder than it was yesterday. If you remember, we did get into the 60s in a few spots, so it's 9 degrees colder today than it was 24 hours ago out at the airport, 11 degrees colder in Monroe, and 6 degrees colder in Pontiac and Lapeer. There were a couple of showers earlier today south of I-94, but otherwise right now, all is quiet on Exact Track 4D radar. And we expect a pretty quiet day tomorrow, just a little bit chilly, even though temps will be in the low 40s. It's going to feel more like the 30s. And we'll talk about a warm up for next week coming up.
We also have breaking news on the health of the former talk show host Wendy Williams. Her caretakers have released a statement saying Williams has been diagnosed with the same form of dementia that's affecting actor Bruce Willis and his family. The news about the 59-year-old former radio star comes as her family reveals they have trouble even talking to Williams. They say she's under the care of a court-appointed legal guardian, and that guardian released the statement. The statement says Williams can still do some things for herself, and she appreciates kind thoughts and good wishes sent her way. Okay, so something pretty cool could be happening on the moon in the next few hours. America's first moon landing in decades. A spacecraft built and flown by a company called Intuitive Machines sailed around the moon today and is expected to touch down on its south pole. It's the first time a private company is attempting a moon landing. The robotic mission is another step toward putting humans back on the moon. NASA says the lander will be scouting the area for key resources.
We know that there is ice in the crevice of rocks, which are totally shadowed. And therefore, we want to go to the South Pole, however hazardous it is, to see if there is water in abundance. Because if there's water, there's rocket fuel, hydrogen and oxygen. And we could have a gas station on the South Pole of the moon.
Can you imagine that, a gas station on the south pole of the moon? Okay, so the landing's been changing all day. We've been following it. At first, it was going to be around 4:24. Now it is going to be a little bit later. It looks like it could touch down around 6:24 in the evening. We are checking. Of course, we'll keep you updated tonight at 5 and 6. All right, back here on Earth, sap already running from Michigan's sugar maple trees is happening well ahead of schedule. Paula Tutman has been talking to experts to get a read on this year's weather and what it means to maple lovers. Paula.
Hey there. Listen, Karen, we know that so many Michiganders are so proud of their sugar sheds or sugar shacks. They're hobbyists, and so this matters to them. Now, this is John. He is the sap master. He's actually doing a shakedown. That is not sap, that's water. He's getting the machinery ready for the big festival season that's up and coming very quickly. They're paying close attention to the weather.
Oh, look at that. Do you see it coming out?
And on demand, maple sap on an unseasonably warm February day. Just enough below freezing nighttime temps and unseasonably above freezing daytime temperatures to get the heart of the maple trees pumping. Christina Funk is the naturalist for the Troy Nature Center and Historical Village.
The sap, I kind of equate it to blood, like our blood in our bodies. So the sap provides the nutrients, it provides the water for the tree. And so when the tree at this time of year is trying to start growing back its leaves, that sap is being pulled up from the ground through the tree to send out to the buds.
The ingenuity of humans means that since the late 1700s, we have figured out how to steal that sap for ourselves.
So right now I'm just trying to get the shavings out. Do you see the shavings coming out?
I've been talking to hobbyists and commercial maple syrup producers throughout Michigan for the last several weeks to gauge what our unusually warm winter is doing to maple syrup season. And thus far, it seems to be prolonging it because some started tapping in January.
It is unusual this early. They usually don't tap. They usually won't tap their trees until late January, early February.
But starting from today, moving forward, the temperature fluctuations will either cut the season short.
Once it stays above freezing, the sap is going to really go out to the buds, and eventually that sap is going to change and it's going to be too bitter when the buds start coming out.
Or if we keep getting those below freezing temps at night, it could make this year an incredibly long sweet season.
So the syrup producers, some of them are hoping that this will be a great season. Since they got to tap so early, they've already started collecting gallons upon gallons of sap.
The current weather is good news for the Stage Nature Center in Troy, which is preparing for the start of its maple syrup festival season. It's actually a 3-weekend event that starts this weekend.
They'll get to see how a tree is tapped for sap. They will visit the sugar shed, and our sap master will give them a demonstration on how a wood stove evaporator works.
Okay, so I call him the Maple Maestro. I do want to make a quick correction. This weekend is the sponsored event. The first 3 weekends in March, that's the actual festival where you get tours, you get a chance to see how maple syrup is actually made. I'm going to warn you though, Karen, don't just drop in. They get really, really crowded. Make sure you make your reservations for your time slot online for the first 3 weekends in March so that you can experience all things maple, because guess what? It looks like the weather's simply going to cooperate.
I've driven by the parking lot on those weekends. It is crazy over there. You definitely need to make an appointment. So cool. All right. Thank you, Paula.